This is introducing Chris Buxton, Audrey's son. Audrey has just explained the situation of extreme vulnerability they're both facing right now with regards to eviction, homelessness, and bankruptcy for added reasons by the council, as explained. And so I'm asking Chris now to explain his situation and how he's feeling relative to all of the proceedings going on. Chris, over to you.
Well, I'm Audrey's son, as Linda now said, and I have been living under the same roof of my mother all my life, and previous to that, my grandmother, as my mother probably also mentioned in her address. Going back before COVID, every council tax bill was paid and all settled up, and then we go through, like the rest of the world, the COVID muddle, and nobody could get to the bottom of the council tax bills. I had tried talking to Norfolk District Council and sorting out, asking them all the right questions and asking them where they get the legislation to pay, along with why can't they sort the bills out. And then they wouldn't talk to me, and I'm also on the vulnerable list because of medical conditions. So I went and told them that and kept going through backwards and forwards with them. So sometimes you wouldn't get no answer of any substance, or they'd answer two of your questions out of five that you'd asked them. As time's gone on, the stress has got more and more. It didn't matter who you try and talk to, they just carry on enforcing without taking any look at the whole situation as it is to see whether they are wrong or whether we were wrong. But I can 100% prove through paperwork that we've got that they are in the wrong. But of course, this is probably the reason they don't want to talk to us, because they know they're in the wrong, and it would highlight their situation in front of people. And of course, the council will never admit that they are wrong. But with the enforcement, it then comes down to the fact is where they want to recognise me as living in this house only as a voluntary licensee under my mum's house, as if I haven't paid nothing, had no commitment to the building. Yeah, I've renovated it, I've built it, I've operated businesses from here, I've operated my small holding from here, I've had a farm account run from here for over 32 years. And you just can't get nowhere with them, while at the same time, the trustees that have been appointed in the bankruptcy have put costs on, and as the council are also the creditor in the bankruptcy, the council has a duty of care to look over the trustees' costs, but they aren't. It doesn't matter who you write to, you get no answer, and just continuous enforcement. You ask the different trustees to identify the portions of land, because the title deeds here don't all match up because the property goes back to the 1400s. And most of the land here over the last 34 years, I've had the land register under the adverse possession rules. So I've had to wait the 12 years and a day and fence it and then prove that it was ours. But unfortunately, some of that land ended up with my mother's name being on it, as well as my grandmother's, who is no longer here. But my name doesn't appear on it, only from the purposes of administration. It wasn't to the fact of who actually owned it. It was just down to need and convenience, that the piece of land next door was a piece registered in mum's name. The piece on that side might as well be registered in mum's name. Didn't mean to say that pieces of land that I've had to purchase weren't purchased off me neither. Just because the name on the deed doesn't mean, because we've had an old family trust arrangement that goes back 4 or 5 generations, if not longer, that basically the oldest person in the family has always had the purse strings, and then when the next generation comes on, that's when that moves down. But that's in the ways of property. But it's only since land registry has come in has it now become such a issue, because when you live in a house, you now have to prove the whole reason of you living there. And that is the hard point of when you've lived somewhere for 34 years and you've been paying for like new windows and that you don't keep every receipt for 30 odd years.
Chris, if you can just go back and let us know how what's going on right now has affected things, or since at least the land's been registered.
Right, well, before 1992, land in Norfolk wasn't registered. So we ended up, you needed title deeds or old plans. And luckily, I've got to this place some of the title deeds that go back to the 1800s and when they were first bought off the manorial rights, what was 1921. But along with that, a lot of cottages and things ceased to be existing on the country lanes, and they left old lokes and old rights of way what run across different pieces of land. And I used to keep all my small holding, my sheep, my goats, and that at the back, and I had my vegetable gardens, and I used to have a 40-foot polytunnel up until about 7 years ago, where I replaced it with a big greenhouse. And I had a vegetable garden, and we've always kept pigs and sheep and goats for the last 30 years. Since all this has been going on, the garden and the landscape has suffered. I've had to put off a lot of the jobs that I would normally do during the year because I'm so busy writing paperwork. The amount of livestock and that we've kept on the land the last few years, I've reduced it right down to now only a few pigs. My APH registration number and my smallholding registration number all go back over 30 years on the land, so the trustees could have quite easily seen that I had an interest in the land because it's got my name on it, and it's all been under the Priory Holding Trust, what is basically my great grandparents' farming trust, what they sold in, I think it was 1945 when they sold the farm, but the trust of that had still been running, and we'd always been in the small holding side of things right up until the present time. The amount of stress and anxiety you get by having nobody listening to you, nobody wants to recognise you, and everywhere around you you can see my fingerprints on everything. As Linda knows, Linda, who is doing this interview with me, has been my architect from my grandparents' times when she originally done their first drawings for them to change the use of part of this premises to residential from a shop. And as I said, it just feels like now that nobody wants to listen to you, nobody wants to take notice of you, and the whole system is imploding and is directed on one thing: money, finance and greed. So following on from that is the biggest point is that in this day and age it is really hard to get any form of legal representation. The legal representation that you can get is very limited because the average solicitor now, as soon as you mention anything to do with councils, they either back away or don't want to work because they know it's stressful enough for the client, let alone for the solicitor. To be a litigant in person, you have to be of a strong character, what I am, but at the same time, I'm not powerful enough to be able to roll the questions off the tongue like you would with a proper representation. So you find yourself at the mercy of the courts and the legal system, and in this country at this moment in time, that is in a very poor state. So you really only hope is to go out, and if you haven't got a pot of gold at the end of the tunnel, you can't fight, and this is how they win. So it's imperative that you get some funding to help to uncover the truth is what I'm really looking for, because when nobody will give you your freedom of information, and the ICO and the ombudsman are running at 40 and 60 weeks, and then you've then got to ask them for their freedom of information because they haven't given you the correct answer or the paperwork that you asked for, and then you've got to join that queue again. You're 2 years down the line and you're no further from where you were before, but you've got no information. Where if you've got some funding to go with a legal challenge, at least you can challenge them to provide you with that information through the courts. But you can only do that if you've got funding. The stress of years of fighting this, I mean, I've spent a considerable amount of money and my own money, and I'm now at the letting where I've got no money left, and every penny that I'm earning is being used to defend this case. And at this moment in time, I'm at the end of the road with basically nowhere to go apart from having these trustees with their inflated fees and uplifting charges added to their bills. And they still won't provide you with any information. And every time I put in for freedom of information requests, they just point blankly either ignored you, refused you, or just saying, we need some more information of you. You then send them the more information, and they then send you maybe one bit of the information back what you want, or nothing. But one of the most interesting freedom informations I had actually come back, and I haven't actually told Linda this one, was from the courts. I asked the courts a direct question: did they have any information on Audrey Simcoe or Audrey Buxton for the period of the last 10 years? This was previous to her being made bankrupt. So this would have covered the time when she would have had all of the liability orders made against her for the various properties. The Freedom of Information request said, we have done extensive research of our systems, and we have checked this thing, that thing, this thing, that thing, this thing, everything what I'd asked them, and I'd even, under the advice of somebody who knows about freedom of information requests, had sent them a graph so there was nowhere that they could have missed what they needed to look for. And it said, we hold no files. That's because the council tax courts aren't part of the court system. And that's the thing.
So doesn't the council keep any records at all in their archives? Or don't they go to county hall then?
Why would the council keep any records of you? We're not allowed to, because it's breaching of your data.
So how can they answer any FOIs then?
Exactly. Only if you go to the court. The corporate department can't have nothing on to the public. But they've got things all at the council back office. And many people won't know this, but when you write to your councillor, you think you're writing to your councillor. Well, 30 years ago you did. 20 years ago you did. 10 years ago you did. But now you don't. Now when you write to your councillor, and that goes through his email, before he gets to see it, it goes to the back office, where the administration gets to look at it. And then they pass it on through their system. So you are not the first person, nor the councillor, to read that email. That councillor is the third hand after you have sent it. And I know that for a fact because I got referred to a back office.
Where's that located?
At Norfolk.
Norfolk.
Each council has their own back office.
Okay, so as we're losing our district offices, where will it go then?
Well, why are we losing our district office?
North Norfolk District Council is closing, is it not?
Why is it closing?
Well, because they've been, shall we say, the money seems to have disappeared?
No.
Really?
Because somebody sent a law challenge to. Haven't you seen the headlines in the newspaper this week?
I don't do newspapers.
Have you not seen where it says the reform are challenging devolution of Norfolk?
No.
Haven't you seen that? It's all off.
Tell me about it.
It's all off the cat. It's all off the cage. Well, it could have something to do with the letter of freeze that I sent to Norfolk and to the monitoring office of the county hall, asking them where they spent £9 million and how they would like to tell us where they'd spent it.
Oh.
And they sent me a letter back telling us that they were basically told by London that they had to spend this money on the devolution. But in the meantime, I wrote to London and asked the London minister, could he tell us under what legislation? I've got the letters all on the computer, so I'm doing this off guesswork. But could we tell us where we'd spent all of the money and who authorised it? He said Norfolk. Norfolk told us that they wanted devolution. Yeah, Norfolk had told us that it was London telling us that we had to have devolution. So then, of course, the elections were cancelled. And we were then going to have no elections in many of these districts across the country. Well, I've been having a little bit of a route around, and I know constitutional law and different things, and I pointed out to a couple of people that a council can't change when election is only government. So I then sent a letter to County Hall and London and every monitoring officer in Norfolk, telling them that what they're doing is illegal, and what they'd done 2 years ago, cancelling the election, was totally illegal. I then stumbled across an organisation through the Heritage Party, and there was a Polish lady, and her name is on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. And she said, "We're fighting that." I said, "Well, are you? I'd better come and join you." So I then went and joined them, and they took a legal challenge. Then all of a sudden, Mr. Farage jumps on the phone and says he's taking a legal challenge against the cancelling of elections. And it was nothing to do with Nigel Farage. This had been done long before. And I've got the House of Lords letter sitting here on my phone that they sent me. And if anybody looked on my Facebook, they will see the House of Lords letter is on my Facebook, telling me thank you very much for the information I'd sent them, and they will be mentioning it in the House of Lords. So the Hansards was done. The elections were put back on. We've now got a new administration in Norfolk who have now put a challenge in to central government about devolution. So devolution, what Tim Adams at North Norfolk was so loving that he got his wish of getting devolution three-way split into 3 districts, considering 43% of the people voted for it, and the others more voted against the 3-way. But this is the kicker. There's 763,000 people live in Norfolk. There was 1,456 consultation sheets received.
Is that all?
So how was that democratic? Because nobody knew about it. Nobody knew about it. And we wouldn't have known about it. And Ryburn Parish Council was the only parish council in the country to send a letter from the people.
Country or county?
In the country.
Really?
To first of all send a letter to say that we don't agree with you cancelling the elections. Because I raised it with the parish council and put it onto their minutes, and they voted unanimously that they thought that the election shouldn't be cancelled. And as the parish council is the people's council, and rarely is your common law council, people need to start getting on them councils, and instead of just thinking about dog shit bins and filling in
potholes.
Well, we don't even worry about the potholes. The things in the village, they need to look above the village and ask the questions, because when their district councillor comes there, that is the minute, and every minute's parish council minutes, are read by an MP. So whatever's said in them meetings, make sure it gets put on them sheets. And a lot of clerks don't put the stuff on it. No. They write them very...
I do think that, like Glastonbury Town Council, they should be recorded and shared on YouTube and be open.
I think
even if they look a bit ridiculous for it on occasions, I think it's the way to go, because you should be answerable to your parish, your district.
I think the way forward is that if we're going to reduce the council numbers down what we need to, I think 3 parishes should be joined together to make and give them more power.
Oh, I would have thought it should have been all of the parishes need to be representative. So at the moment...
Yeah, but like us here, we've got great little library.
Yeah.
Well, we might as well be one.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You've not got many people in the small area, but
they are getting, because they're registered as a separate parish.
Yeah.
Like I said to you, they're getting our food a lot.
So where do their parish councils seat then? Where's their office?
On ours now.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
But they're still separate.
Mm-hmm.
So they're incorporated in ours. So what I'm saying is the way forward would be is to say, right, we're here, and then you've got Testerton. Testerton would put Norton. Why the hell would put Norton? Because it's the wrong side of the road.
It is.
It would be far better to put that to Ryburn.
Yeah.
So at the same time as changing the boundaries of where parish boundaries never normally change, it could be a good time to look at the parish boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and sensibilise them.
Yeah.
So that where you've got 10 houses.
Because I mean, Hempton is now with, oh gosh, wherever it is, on the way to Coltkirk, not Coltkirk, Wissenset, up that way, that road, that area there. Yes, Pudding Norton. Pudding Norton. That with Hempton are now together there. So
yeah, because Pudding Norton wouldn't get a parish council.
That's right.
They collapsed, and that's what you will find as you're getting less and less houses, and you're only getting. I mean, it's like people are saying these villages. I mean, like this village here. We've had houses what have dropped down, and the village hasn't changed in number of people, and we've had a few new houses built. But all the new houses what have been built are so under-occupied.
Mm.
Going back to when, just before
How
I
many
was born,
holiday homes have you got in this village?
we haven't got many holiday homes now.
Really?
Because what were the holiday homes? People tend to then retire up to here, and then here. But because they've then retired up here, it meant we've now got an older population.
Mm.
Our population of Ryborough is very old.
Mm-hmm.
We've also got, the other thing is where their partner has then died, so there's like one person living in a 4 and 5 bedroom row of cottages. What would have been 4 cottages years ago with 16 people bringing up 16 children and that in them. So as the councils are more inclined to get more and more people to living on their own, they're getting more revenue by the electricity meter. They're getting more.
So do you think that might be why they're after your properties here without really considering the situation for you and Audrey? Because you imagine how many people they could cram in here if they wanted to.
Well, it's either that, if they want to fill them up.
Do you think they'll want the pigs and chickens and things as well?
I think it's the whole change of society is being driven by centralisation, where individuality is being pushed out. And with these small holdings and driving through these villages is a thing of a past now to see loads of little small holdings, pigs, people with the animals just enough. You've either got multi-factory farming or just somebody who's got a lot of money who managed to retire early, and you can tell that they've got a lot of money because they're growing the vegetables not because of need or because of want, but because it's a hobby and they've got nothing else to do.
Completely.
Because you can tell that their railway sleepers round their flower beds are absolutely mint, where yours and mine are old bits of wood that we've gathered up from elsewhere.
Yes.
And living the old way. I mean, as I said, it's the way of life that I know.
So how do you think you would feel if, God help you both, but if you and your mum are evicted? Where would you go? How? I mean, because from what Audrey was saying, her name's on everything and she's the one being bankrupted and evicted, you are evicted by default.
I'm being evicted by default.
Without any rights, and you're not even...
I would have had more rights if I'd have been a tenant.
Yeah.
If I'd have been a tenant in the house, they couldn't have got me out. Then with the change in the Tenancy Act, they couldn't have got me out. When it comes to bank accounts, me and Mum, for many of our life, were in business in big bank accounts, and we always had a joint bank account, and they come to shut the HSBC account in Fakenham because they were shutting the branch. Didn't shut the account, shut the branch. So I said to Mum, open an account with Lloyd's. So she went and opened an account with Lloyd's. Well, of course, stupidly, her name went on the account because I weren't here. And I've got the letters proving that I am the full use of the account. So for the last 8 or 9 years, and of course, people only really look back 5 or 6 years at accounts, everything is shown as if Mum's paid it out and paid it in. But my money, as I've earned, has gone into there. But nobody seems to want to take any notice of that. They just want to tidy everything up, because what I've learned is these big corporations thrive on making it look like one person owns everything, because if anybody else is in the way, it muddies the water. Then if they go and bring in a small holding or the animal welfare, and that sort of thing. That again adds another issue of why they can't get rid of you.
Or your welfare,
And-
potentially.
But the whole reason that after I'd come out of the businesses that I was in, as Linda know, they were big businesses and very stressful. This was always my home, and when I got ill, the bed and breakfast, just doing the 3 to 4 rooms of that with the animals and the small holding is enough for me to earn a living, do it as I want, and have what you would call peace and enjoyment of life. Now all of a sudden they want to tear all that to bits for their own greed and their own cost without actually looking at the clear picture, and you just can't go anywhere with it. It doesn't matter who you send letters to. The judges allocate 30 minutes for court cases, and that's 30 minutes isn't no good to get over when you've got a trained actor standing there doing his part, and you're trying to be the litigant in person and explain that he's wrong because you own it. No, you don't own it because your name isn't on the piece of paper. But I've got all this what proves that, and all the planning permissions, and one of the funniest things is going back to the small holding. Norfolk took me to court 20 years ago over noisy cockerels.
Oh, really?
So how can they say that I have no interest in the land when...
Well, I haven't got the paperwork.
I've sent it to them. Because they lost the day, if you remember.
Exactly.
You know, every tree on the garden here I've planted. All the big old conifers were down the sides of the gardens and up the forestry bit. I took all them down, if you remember, and then replanted all the proper native trees. The trees what are there now, the ones on this side, I'd actually planted them to about now, cut them ones down, stack all that wood, ready for the next 10 years, and then let another load come up there, because they are just ready to come down.
Yeah.
But
your future is uncertain right at this moment. Do you know when the court case is?
I've got a court case on Friday.
So what's the date of that? Do you know?
That's 14th today, so it's the 17th, 18th, 19th.
19th of June.
That's the court case for the possession. They got a possession order by default because on the day of the court case, they decided that all of my rights to the property they would ignore by not mentioning them and just putting in front of the judge all a title deed, mum's books, excluded my books. They then went to get the order of eviction. They served me with the paper, what should be 14 days before the eviction. They served me with a letter 9 days before the eviction, and 3 days before the eviction, a man sellotaped a piece of an eviction notice to the door. He then went back and decided to tell the court, the back trustees, that I was a free man of the land, not that I'm just somebody who wants my rights and liberties and things respected. He went and told them that I was a free man of the land and give me a derogative title, plastered it, so when you look at the court paper, you've got the first bit is about the courts, and then the rest of it is about me being a free man of the land and how he'd never managed to capture a house successfully in the 20 years he's been doing it in Norfolk because of the free men of the land, and how he'd need the police on standby because it becomes dangerous to the bailiffs when the free men of the land are there. Well, I've never ever seen these free men of the land, and I've asked him.
So they wear different hats or something?
Well, I've asked him to identify them. I have asked the court and the judge as well to identify what a free man of the land looks like, because I want to know what they look like. But nobody can identify one yet. So we're now back to the court case now on Friday is to move it to the High Court. But they want to move it to the High Court. They haven't given me a breakdown of how much they want off my mum. Bearing in mind I'm not the bankruptcy, but they're demanding of me as if I'm the criminal or the felon, as mother has been called in paperwork of freedom of information. I've asked them for a copy of the land registry document. They just keep saying, we've got on 29 Station Road. Well, I could put my post box outside on that letterbox and say, here's 29 Station Road. Because they just quote total numbers. Well, the total number and the total plans, it says at the bottom of the total plan, this does not be classed as a true document. This is only, so it could be anywhere. But I know the total deeds aren't right because different bits of land are owned under different names. It's all split up because of the adverse possession I had to do because of the land registry. But at no point did I think that by land registering the property was I going to be land registering it for a corporation to take it off.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Absolutely.
For a bill that was never owed.
No.
And for me, if Linda...
So they could actually do that to everybody owning a home in Britain, because in your title deeds anyway, right in the small print somewhere, it says that at any time, not even just in the case of war, this property can be taken back by the state or the crown.
Right.
So
that is, that's actually quite not true, you know that.
Indeed.
It's in there.
That's it.
But
that's what, as architectural designers, we have to tell.
You know, if you go along the motorway in England, there's a cottage. No, can't now. I've been past it 3 times. The road is there and the road is down here.
Or is it in the middle?
And it's in the middle. And they will tell you, if you read the archaeology, the road survey reports, there was a geographical fault.
Okay.
So that's why they built one half of the motorway up there, one half
Maybe their deeds didn't have the small print.
Well, no, it goes back to they did. But because, as I was telling you earlier, only the land inside the Duchy of Cornwall can ever be took back to the king, because the king had given all the land to the manor lords so that it was theirs. And then when you claimed your freehold title off them, you actually bought the freehold. It is only if the state wanted it in the good works of the state could they then still take it. But your freehold title, and this is again another argument I've got with land registry, because when you get a place as old as this, I sell a piece of land to the person next door, but I don't sell all of it. Do I get a new title number? No, I don't. Do they get a new title number? No, they don't. But the bit of land that they just took off me, it's a new title number. And the piece of land that I took off them,
so the land, it's all about the land.
So the land ends up with 4 title numbers for the same piece of land, where they should pull together like jigsaw puzzle. But when I registered these bits of land and done the first registration, I had to do an extensive work. I won't say it was easy. I had to provide photographs. I had to provide witness statements of people who knew that I'd been mowing the grass for 12 years and a day.
Really?
Yes. I then had to prove that it didn't warrant anybody else to go anywhere. So I then had to prove that I owned the piece of land on either side of it, and this walkway went across this bit of land down the side there. And there used to be 5 cottages here what had long gone, and that's why that bit of land never went, because they had a deed, but that was a walkway. So I needed to take that to join the land up. So one of the neighbours objected. So again, it has to go back to land registry. So again, I've got loads of my names on all background stuff. Just my name isn't on that bit.
But if they don't have any paperwork, they wouldn't see it anyway.
But they have got it. And every time...
it's in the back room.
No, at land registry. This is so every time land registry gets your set of deeds out, a load of trustees are saying that he hasn't got a claim on here. This is what we say, and the court's saying that. When the land registry get my pack of deeds out, they have now found that there's a little bit of a problem, because I've signed a right of way. So
Okay.
I've basically given somebody a right of way over land what technically they're telling me I don't own, but Land Registry have okayed me giving that right of way because Land Registry know that I do own it, just that my name ain't on the top. So my next move is I've now got to write to Land Registry as well and ask Land Registry who removed my grandmother's name because I was the executor to her will.
Yeah.
And all land and beneficiaries were granted to my mum. But because I was the executor, I needed to give them permission to take her name off that will. And I never have. But the name has come off the deed of grandmother's. But there's a Class A on there, and a Class A restriction comes into, again, if anybody, you learn things as you're going along. If anybody has land, they need to put themselves a Class A restriction on there, and they also need to put themselves a signature stopper on it. What means that it can any alteration can only be done with your title deeds if your signature says so. Because anybody can, if you haven't got a mortgage on a house, I could look down the street and find a nice old lady who's living in a house with no mortgage. Find out that her name is Frida Brown, and I can fill out a Land Registry document with her name on it and put my name on beside hers.
Well, the other thing is, if what the rich do is they create a land trust to ensure that it doesn't get sold for profit, but is kept within the family and future generations. And I do recommend to everybody that I speak to that they form land trusts.
Anybody who's
whether it be a community land trust or
anybody who's even got a small home for the family,
totally,
just between a trust, because this 2030, what most people think, are only now starting to wake up to the agenda 2030. That the ones of us who have been awake for a long while can now see the fruitfulness of this, and if the people who are only now waking up are going to have no chance with it, of this own nothing, because this is the way they're going to take it. Keep putting your council taxes up, and the whole reason they know what alter the council taxes is because next week it's in the High Court, and the government are going to lose in the High Court that council tax is unlawful. Well,
it should all get very interesting, and possibly we should do a follow-up after your court case.
On Friday.
Yeah, after Friday as well. But if we can tie this in with your mother's and the, what's it called on Facebook? GoFundMe?
Yeah, Mum's got a GoFundMe page on Facebook.
I'll link that to this on.
That we want to, basically, we're not looking to raise thousands. We want anybody who can donate any amount of money to help us fight this, because what I want to do is I want to uncover the freedom of information from these companies. What won't give them to you? Well, it costs about £1,000 to get a court order into the court to get them to give the freedom of information.
It really helped to have legal representation anyway, wouldn't it?
Then to get some legal representation to take it forward. I also think a lot of these companies, what tell you are doing these jobs, they actually don't hold the information what they're supposed to, or they don't follow the procedures. When you ask them for the certain information, all of a sudden they panic. That's why they won't give it to people, because they actually haven't got it, although it's legally required that they have to have it. And the stress this is having on Mum, considering she's worked all of her life, never worked for a huge wage, always worked to give people enjoyment, entertainment, and make a living. That's been the main thing, and raised all the money for the Royal British Legion with the veterans and that for over 60 years. She'd done that. To think that they now are doing this for a bill that she never owed.
I know. For
a building that the biggest part is they won't admit their own mistakes. And
never.
They never will admit their own mistakes. And
can you imagine the clawback if they did?
The monitoring officers at all district councils are supposed to be there to keep the council in constitutional shape. Norfolk District Council had a constitution. Their constitution is what governs the people. After I mentioned that I wanted a copy of their constitution, they all of a sudden have updated their constitution, and now they've got the 2026 version of their constitution out. But they don't realise that I have got behind Linda there the constitution headlined with the front cover, The Book of Lying Bastards by Ladybird. And that was the 2024 version and 2025 version and before. And it is surprising how much stuff in a council's constitution that they haven't covered themselves for. And because all of this with Mum happened before their update of their constitution, I used their old constitution for my
And what happens to your grandmother who's buried in your grounds here as well? I mean, if you're both thrown off, what happens to her?
We've got the family land.
Yeah.
It had been already left as a verbal trust that was basically, when my grandmother died, was that the land would then be left at the end of the day, the last 2 cottages, to the parish. Then the money raised from them would maintain the private drive, the burial grounds, and whatever money was left over would then go into village funds. That was how it was supposed to be. But in the meantime of my grandmother dying and me and Mum sorting out the last bit, these trustees have come on and wanting to say that everything's theirs, even my grandmother's dead body in the hole.
Ridiculous.
That's the funny thing.
I know. So that's North Norfolk District Council.
Yeah.
Trustees.
Yeah, it all stemmed with North Norfolk District Council.
Yeah.
But one thing what a lot of people don't realise is all monitoring officers in the country are members of the Monitoring Association of Monitoring Officers. And the Institute of Monitoring Officers and the Association of Monitoring Officers are all funded by Wilkinson and Chapman.
And who are Wilkinson and Chapman?
They are the solicitors to the trustees of Mum's bank books.
Oh, really?
Yes. And they are also the insolvency practitioners, also work for that same solicitors company. So there's no impartiality. Then, if you go right back to Mum's original, because this wasn't a one property, one council tax bill, it was then wrong allocation of 4 or 5 and billing her for properties that she sold and billing her for a property that she had rented out. You ended up with little bills, and each little bill then had added to it the cost of the bailiff man coming. But when you then have one bailiff man come and you basically tell him to go away, you're not interested, you keep telling the council the billing owed, can you go back and tell the council the same thing? He goes away and he tells the council that they don't want to pay you, and I can't get the money out of them, so I'll hand it back to the council. So what the council then does is they look down their list and then they go, right, there's a different bailiff company. So they send all of your details again to bailiff man number 2. So bailiff man number 2 from a completely different bailiff company, he comes knocking on your door and he brings you a letter and he says, I've got a letter for you. It says that you owe £225 in council tax for that property. Well, no, that was only £35. Oh yeah, but you've got previous bailiff man's £250 visa been added to that, so that's what you now owe. So you tell him, no, because I didn't owe the first one in the first place. Go away, tell the council exactly what you told them. So they then send the third man. So now the third man comes and he knocks on your door and he says, I've come from the council. Oh, can I see your ID card? Well, I'm not from the council, I'm from this company. Oh, yeah, well, can I see your ID card and can I see what gives you the authority to come collecting a civil debt? They haven't got one. So he then goes back to the council and tells the council. But in law, they're not allowed to send more than one bailiff after one debt. And I've got that all in law. But they've sent 3 now for Mum's same debt. But this all stems down to the fact is because all of my life
I've always asked the council the questions that they don't like people to ask. And we've got one of the biggest factories in our village here. What a lot of people hate it, love it, or whatever. It's going to be here for a long while. So use it to the advantage. But every penny of the legal cover and all the legal costs of building that factory, renovating that factory, extending that factory, North Norfolk has made sure he calls all that money back. But the residents of this village, we just left for a factory and get no benefit from it.
Apart from being run over on the pavement every now and again.
Yeah. Where now we've got a new parish council, the Moultons has got a lot more money that they need to get rid of, and basically they're for the doing of the food allotments and the things like that, and putting some renovation back into the River Wensum. They are now on board, but it's took 20 years of bad management of councils. And
you got your common land back in the village as well, have you?
Well, we've got the food allotment, common land, what doesn't generate nowhere near the revenue what it would have 30 years ago, because they changed the way that people live and nobody goes down and collects it. The living wage of the average person now is so high that to pay anybody to go down there to cut the wood to bring it back out becomes financially sustainable. So unless you're fit enough to go, so we're looking at other options with the food allotment common land of raising money with the carbon neutral policies and that. And also it's made a wonderful nature reserve down there.
Beautiful.
And we've now got the beavers back. The beavers are down there.
Are they?
Yeah.
Wow. So is that Pensthorpe that's put them in or not?
Well, no, they escaped them.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and then they moved into Pensthorpe, and now she's having some kids. So
oh, wow.
They're on our side of the river.
Sweet.
But going back to this situation, speaking to other people, you know you're not alone.
No.
And it seems like it's becoming a racket. And I don't think the county councils realise, because the county council spends the money, right? The district councils are the ones who collect the money. So the district councils are the ones that have got in-house legal teams, and they need to fund them in-house legal teams. And the only way they can fund these in-house legal teams is through enforcement.
Well, there you go. And that's where we are, isn't it?
That's where we are. We're at the enforcement. So I think, and it's across the country as well as here.
Absolutely.
It's not so much the county councils. The county councils waste millions in their
but
they're not the enforcers.
No, that's right. And it is across the country.
Where if a bigger council was the enforcer, it wouldn't be able to be so, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. But when you've got district councils, there's only 10 people working in that office. That 10 people know the tenant, the next district over. They all use the same enforcement agencies because they get back. I mean, if you see the Wilkinson Chapman Gala that they put on for the solicitors and the monitoring officers of the year, funded by a gala event, and when you've got the top tier of wages in these local councils going to 8 people, I mean, when I broke down North Norfolk's, as I've done that chart the other day, they've got 27% of their workforce works under the Norfolk national average, but they've got 8% who are 4 times over. 4 times
I think
over
that's normal,
but 4 times over the North Norfolk national wage.
Oh, no.
Now North Norfolk, if you take the average national wage, we are a poor area. But if you take the average wage of the pension class, we fare one of the best.
Oh, so, are you talking about private pensions?
Yeah.
Yeah, not state.
But what I'm saying is the amount of people that we have living here. So if you think that much, if you base their 4 times over, when we've got some of the richest pensioners in Norfolk, that means that their top tier wage is phenomenal compared to another council. So you could go somewhere like Southend, and yes, their top tier would be 4 times over the base. But
well, I think We'll talk about that more when after the court case, when we top up then really and update.
So
But
the main thing
it is across the board.
Is
really.
trying to find a good legal team to support us through this thing that we've never ever been in before in our lives, in the sense of for a bill what you never owe, and for if you go and have your car fixed and it don't work, you've got something to argue about. In this instance, they're telling you what you've got to pay, and it doesn't matter how much you argue, and they don't want to listen because they put you straight down as a non-payer of council tax because you're saying I don't believe that figures are right, and because you're saying that, and I'm not alone here, it's happening to loads of people. They're putting everybody down as the non-payer, even if you have never ever not non-paid. When you then get a problem and saying, look at this, no, they just are saying that they don't want to pay, we're correct, and they're not correct. In Mum's case, I can prove 100% they're not correct.
Good. You may have to do that in court, of course.
That's where we are.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Right.
Christopher. Cheers. Thank you.